What's up, everybody? John Hoover from the franchise. Sooners beat South Dakota tonight, 70-14. It was the kind of matchup you would expect. The number 4 team in the country comes in playing an FCS team from South Dakota. Sooners had their way, but the thing that was maybe most encouraging when you look at how Oklahoma's starters played and then you see the backups come in, it looked like the backups came in, they were hungrier, they were more focused, they were more intent on doing their job, taking care of their business. I thought the backups, for the most part, played really well. I didn't get the feeling that the starters were fully engaged when this game got going, even though it was an easy game for them. You know, I talked to, for instance, in the postgame, talked to Jalen Hertz, talked to CeeDee Lamb, talked to Radley-Hiles. All three of those guys, for the most part, said they need to play better. Oklahoma needs to play better. I really don't feel like Oklahoma was playing South Dakota tonight. I don't feel like they were getting prepared all week for South Dakota. You go into a game like this and you're the prohibitive favorite. You're, again, one of the best teams in the country. You're playing against the Texases of the world in a few weeks. You're playing against the Clemsons and the Alabamas and the Ohio States and the Georgias in the college football playoff. That's what this week should have been about. And I think the guys recognize, I think the players, when they examine how they played and some of the intensity, some of the issues that cropped up during this game, I think that they realized they left some things out there on the table tonight. Both backup quarterbacks got in, which was very encouraging. Jalen Hertz, obviously the starter, he had a big game as you would expect. Tanner Mordecai comes in, 6 out of 8, 114 yards, 2 touchdowns. His receivers played great. Spencer Rattler, the 5-star freshman, comes in. He goes 4 for 4 for 50 yards and a touchdown again. His receivers played great. The 3 freshman receivers, Trajan Bridges, Jaden Hazelwood, and Theo Weiss, all caught touchdown passes tonight. Guys were coming in off the bench, and they knew that this FCS opponent, South Dakota, the Coyotes, this was an opportunity for these guys to come in off the bench. And I thought for the most part, guys played with energy, guys played with enthusiasm, guys played with focus and intensity. That's what you want to see out of your backups. That allows you later in the season to develop that depth when you do play the Texases, when you do play maybe make the college football playoff or the Big 12 championship game again. Allows you the ability to say, okay, I've seen this guy play, not just on tape, but I've seen him play live. I know I can count on him. Ramon Dre Stephenson came off the bench. All he did, scored for the second week in a row, this time on a 75-yard touchdown run. Showed some speed, some agility. Theo Weiss caught a short pass, turned it upfield. I think it was a 37-yard touchdown. But the final 20 yards, he was being pushed and knocked around and dragged, and he ended up dragging 3 or 4 or 5 South Dakota players into the end zone. What an impressive and explosive play by Theo Weiss. Some of the things that didn't go so well. The offensive line, I thought, was a little bit of a red flag tonight. One of the starters was missing, Marquise Hayes, the left guard who started last week and has been projected as the starter since the spring. He was missing. He was injured. Lincoln Riley said, doesn't seem like a big thing, but he was not dressed out tonight. That created some instability on the offensive line. You put R.J. Proctor, who started at left tackle, in there last week. R.J. Proctor was a guard at Virginia. Well, R.J. Proctor was a guard again tonight, and he had some issues. He had some issues with movement, had some issues with recognition. And then at left tackle, you've got Eric Swenson, who also had some issues with alignment, movement, recognition, seeing where guys are coming from. And I'm telling you, it wasn't just the 2 guys on the outside, on the left side. Creed Humphrey, I saw him get beaten by a 6'3", 260-pound defensive tackle or nose guard a handful of times, especially early in the game. Creed Humphrey's an All-American. Creed Humphrey might be the best center in all of college football. Creed Humphrey might be a first-round draft pick, and yet there was a guy in front of him who was routinely, not every play, but routinely outplaying him, or at least giving him all he could handle. Creed came out in the second quarter and was able to sit the rest of the game. Lincoln Riley said no injury issues there. So that's encouraging. But the OU linemen as a whole, I think two penalties committed by Swenson, 4 penalties, holding penalties in the first quarter and a half. And those, every one of them seemed to negate some kind of big gain. You could say maybe the holding penalty is what actually led to the big gain. But for the most part, it was holding penalties wiping out big plays, by receivers downfield, especially the pass to CeeDee Lamb early on. That was an unbelievable throw by Jalen Hertz. Also, Jalen Hertz was sacked once. I think he was twisted down for a loss once. Not something you want to see, guys falling on your quarterback's knees in a twisting motion. a little bit of, like I said, red flags. And Lincoln Riley said that they need to get some of that stuff cleaned up. For his part, I thought Jalen Hertz was mostly terrific. He came in the post-game press conference talking about taking those steps, getting better, playing better, the need to play better against better competition. And certainly that showed up tonight. But Jalen Hertz, 14 of 18 tonight, 259 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. He also ran 8 times for 57 yards. So, again, over 300 yards for Jalen Hertz. Again, 4 incompletions for Jalen Hertz tonight. That brings his total on the season through 2 games to 7 incompletions, and he's accounted for 9 touchdowns. Pretty impressive work. Maybe most importantly of all, the defense, should I say, Buki Radley-Hiles, finally got some turnovers tonight. Buki got a fumble recovery in the second quarter. He got an interception and a pick 6 in the third quarter. Kind of opened the floodgates a little bit, and it really set off the guys, the defensive players, in terms of celebration, and Alex Grinch and his kind of a demand that guys get 2 turnovers per game. Well, they got 3. Jaden Davis, the freshman cornerback, actually got an interception later in the game, and he almost had a second interception. So things are looking up for the Oklahoma defense. There were, of course, issues tonight. You can tell South Dakota scores 14 points. They had a couple of drives. They had a couple of touchdown drives. They had a couple of other drives that actually were maybe there were some missed tackles and some missed assignments and some blown coverage or some guys making catches over guys. Those things were a little bit disconcerting to see FCS players, but I'll tell you what it looked like. And maybe I'm overanalyzing this. Maybe I'm overstating what I saw without really looking at it again. Have to study the film, as the coaches say. South Dakota looked like a pretty solid team. Offensively, defensively, their defensive line looks pretty good. They've got some receivers that can make some plays. I like their quarterback. They look like a decent FCS team. Bottom line, Sooners did a lot of good things tonight. There's no doubt about it. Oklahoma takes care of business 70-14 against South Dakota. On to UCLA next week. It's the first road game. And again, they did a lot of good things. But I think they also know that this was a game that they need to play better, just to be able to work out some kinks, just to be able to say, okay, we're ready to go on the road. Okay, in a couple of weeks, we're ready to start Big 12 play against Texas Tech. Okay, a couple of weeks after that, we're ready to take on the Texas Longhorns in the Cotton Bowl. Right now, I don't think this team is ready for those steps. But, another week of practice, another week of progress, another week of, as Jalen Hertz likes to say, taking those steps. I think this team will be fine in the long run. They certainly have the explosiveness and the talent up front to be able to take on the kind of schedule that they have. So look forward to more explosive plays from CeeDee Lamb, Trey Sermon, Kennedy Brooks, Jalen Hertz, guys throughout the lineup, and maybe some progress we'll see out of the Oklahoma offensive line, maybe some more turnovers we'll see out of the Oklahoma defense. And if that's the case, if those things happen, if this team continues to develop in the direction that we're seeing at this point, 2 games into the season, I think that's encouraging. That's it for now. Sooners win 70-14 on to UCLA. Talk to you guys later.